The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB as I'm going to call it in this video, is one of the ways that our federal government is trying to help us out during the pandemic. But what exactly is CERB? Who's eligible? How do you apply? And how much will you receive if you get approved? All of those answers and more in today's video. Keep watching. Welcome to the Ready Set Life YouTube channel. My name is Brittany and I'm a millennial financial coach who makes videos all about taking the fear out of finance. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos on Thursdays and you don't want to miss them. As always, section time codes are down in the description, so feel free to hop around. But please know that watching the video all the way through, at least the first time, really does help for the growth of my channel. That tells YouTube that you're actually interested in the content that I put out and flags them to push it out to more people. That being said, let's get right into it. As I mentioned at the beginning, Canada Emergency Response Benefit is one of the programs that the Government of Canada has developed to help those who have lost their income due to COVID-19. If you're eligible, you could receive $500 a week for up to 16 weeks. That's $2,000 a month, which has become a little bit buzzworthy over the past little while. You might have heard a lot of people getting $2,000 government checks. This CERB payment is most likely what they're receiving. Now, an important thing to mention is that this is not employment insurance, or EI. EI and CERB are different programs. EI is the regular program that existed before the pandemic, and it's the program that you would generally otherwise apply for if you had lost your job through no fault of your own. If you need more information on that one, I created a separate video on it. It's linked up in the cards. When the pandemic happened, it was immediately clear that there would be a huge influx of people needing this support. Nearly 1 million Canadians applied for EI just by the end of March, in comparison to 244,000 by March of 2019. So obviously, EI systems and programs cannot handle that volume, and the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit was created. I mean, along with a crap ton of other supports and programs, but today we're just going to focus on CERB. To be eligible for CERB, you need to meet the following requirements. You need to have been residing in Canada and be at least 15 years old. You need to have stopped working because of reasons related to COVID-19, or be eligible for employment insurance, regular or sickness benefits, or have exhausted your employment insurance regular benefits, or employment insurance fishing benefits between December 29th, 2019 and October 3rd, 2020. You must have had employment or self-employment income of at least $5,000 in 2019, or in the 12 months prior to the date of your application, and you need to have not quit your job voluntarily. There are also a few additional requirements in regards to income. They say when submitting your first claim, you cannot have earned more than $1,000 in employment and or self-employment income for 14 or more consecutive days within the 4-week benefit period of your claim. And when you're submitting subsequent claims, you cannot have earned more than $1,000 in employment and or self-employment income for the entire 4-week benefit period of your new claim. Now, I know from my comments and emails that I have some newcomers who watch my channel, so yes, you can apply for CERB if you are not a citizen or a permanent resident, if you meet the eligibility requirements, which includes residing in Canada and having a valid social insurance number. They specifically mentioned that in the FAQs, so I wanted to include it here. Before we move on, I just want to go back for a few seconds and take a look at reasons related to COVID-19. There isn't an exhaustive list that I found anywhere, so that can be somewhat open to interpretation. But the government does give some examples on what would be covered under that. You have lost your job, you are in quarantine or sick due to COVID-19, you are taking care of others because they are in quarantine or sick due to COVID-19, and or you are taking care of children or other dependents because their care facility is closed due to COVID-19. They also clarify that you do not need to have been laid off specifically to access CERB. For example, your employer could put you on furlough or unpaid leave and you could receive the benefits that way. Applications for CERB are pretty easy. I'm going to leave a link below to the application. In order to process all the claims effectively, CERB is being jointly delivered through Service Canada and the Canada Revenue Agency. So when you go to the page I'm going to direct you to, they'll ask you a few questions. The first is to gauge whether you are an employee or self-employed. So you're going to answer that based on your main source of income. Then, depending on what you answer, again, another option will pop up. And I don't want this to be confusing, so I won't list the other questions. But basically, if you say say you're self-employed, they'll ask you if you had any other employment insurance claims, and if you're an employee, they'll ask you about the number of employment hours and how long you worked. Answer them honestly. All will lead you to the application. They're not trying to discredit or eliminate your eligibility with these. They're trying to gauge which government agency should actually receive your application. I know this because I played around with all the options and found out that different question combinations led to applications processed by different places. If I had to guess, this is trying to streamline the files. They have 2 different agencies processing all of these claims so they could get them done faster, and they're sorting them by specific criteria. So maybe all the employees working full-time would be processed by the CRA versus all the employees working part-time would be processed by Service Canada. That might not be what it actually is, it's just an example. But this would allow them to be more efficient in processing since they're all working with the same type of files. The reason I've explained all this is number 1, so you aren't confused with all the qualifying questions, but number 2, so that you only apply for one of these services. If you somehow find the internal link to one of these websites circumventing all of these qualifiers, just know that you can't apply twice. If you've already applied through Service Canada, but it's taking forever and you're thinking, oh, they forgot about me, or you're thinking, geez, well, I bet Service Canada has got a lot of paperwork to go through right now. I think I'll just let the CRA know instead, and maybe they'll get it processed faster. Do not do this. It will not help you and it will not work, and you're probably going to make it very hard for yourself to even get approved at all. Just apply once. Be patient. I know it sucks and it's terrible to wait, but this is a completely unprecedented situation. The government was as prepared as you were when all this went down, which is to say, not at all, so they're doing their best. Advocate for yourself, and if you think it's taking too long and are concerned that something has gone wrong, call them. Eventually, you will get through and you can explain your situation. But don't get mad and frustrated or yell at any of the workers on the other end of the phone line. It won't make anything better, and I'm sure they're just trying to do their best, just like you are. Now, the CERB benefit, thankfully, is less complicated than the EI one. There aren't any crazy formulas or differences in how the benefit is given out. The benefit is $500 each week for a maximum of 16 weeks. The caveat to this is that those 16 weeks need to be taken within an eligibility period from March 15th, 2020 to October 3rd, 2020. And it starts within the first week that you receive the benefit. This being said, those 16 weeks do not have to be consecutive. So you can receive the benefit for a shorter period of time and then go off it and reapply again after your situation changes. Now, as far as I can tell, these payments are being given out in increments of $2,000 for eligibility periods of 4 weeks each. So that means when you first apply for CERB, you're applying for the 4-week eligibility period in which you're in, and that's it. So if you apply on March 12th, according to the eligibility period chart, that's the 3rd eligibility period. So you're going to receive $2,000 payment for that period. And once it turns to the next eligibility period, again, we're going to look at that chart and it says June 6th. That means you're going to have to reapply for that benefit. So you're able to take payments for 16 weeks, but you're only receiving it in 4-week increments. Does that make sense? Guys, this is why I make these videos. It takes me like 20 hours to read through this information on like 4 or 5 different websites just to keep things straight. The government tries to make it as clear as they can, but obviously there's a lot of information to go through. So to explain this next part, let's go through a little mini recap of what we've learned so far. Since the pandemic, there has been a huge influx of people out of work. Rather than rely on our existing program, EI or employment insurance, to handle all of the issues, the government has come up with an additional brand new program called CERB. Since there are, again, a huge volume of people who need this benefit, the government has instructed 2 separate agencies to deal with this application, Service Canada and CRA. Because of this, when you go in to apply for the benefit, the government is going to direct you which agency to apply with. Some of you are going to apply through the CRA, and some of you are going to apply through Service Canada. You with me so far? Because here's where it splits. In order to keep receiving your benefits, you're going to have to either report or reapply for the benefit. And what you do depends on who you apply from. So if you're applying through Service Canada, you're going to send in EI report cards. Service Canada is the agency that usually handles all of the employment insurance benefits. So they have the advantage of using EI portals to handle their traffic. And I assume they're just using the same reporting software that they use for the EI benefits. Although when I was researching for the EI video, not once did they call their bi-weekly reporting EI report cards. That is such a better name. I don't know if this is the exact same thing or it's just for CERB, but they need to update their websites with that. Because they're using the same software portals, I assume that this works much like reporting for EI does. You're going to log into your My Service Canada account. Again, if you've never logged into that before, Service Canada is going to give you a code in the mail that will allow you access to that. I explain more in my EI video, linked in the cards and down below. The CRA, on the other hand, doesn't usually handle these types of programs. So they do not have the fancy already built-in resources. So if you're applying through them, you're going to have to confirm your eligibility by reapplying every eligibility period. If you've applied through Service Canada, you're going to be submitting those reports on a regular basis. So you're not going to have to pay attention to when those eligibility periods are. That one's a little bit easier. But if you've applied through the CRA, I would make some notes in your calendar on those eligibility dates. Again, here's the chart for that. I don't know if the CRA is going to remind you if you need to reply. I think you have to take responsibility for reporting your eligibility to keep getting your benefits, so keep that in mind. Now, I think that's all you need to know about CERB specifically. However, you still might be a little confused. Especially when all this first came out, it was super convoluted and mixed up with EI stuff. CERB didn't come into effect until March 15th, and by that point, a lot of people were already out of work and had applied for EI, or were otherwise needing benefits. So I'm going to add in this section to answer some of those questions and clear up the differences between CERB and EI. First thing, for anyone who became eligible for EI regular or sickness benefits on March 15th or later, your employment insurance claim has automatically been processed through the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. Yes, that means that if you thought you were applying for EI, but it was March 15th or later, it was automatically changed and processed through the CERB benefits. You could be receiving CERB benefits without even knowing it. And this can either be a positive or a negative thing. CERB and EI are similar but different programs. With CERB, you get a set amount of money, $500 every week, or $2,000 every 4 weeks for up to 16 weeks. If you watch my video on EI, you'll know that the amount of money that you receive on that program is not set, and therefore it's different for each person. The maximum amount that you could receive on EI is $573 per week, which would work out to $2,292 for every 4 weeks. If you're on EI and you would have been getting that maximum payment, it means that you're sort of out of luck on that additional $292. You're only receiving $2,000 on CERB. However, the good thing is that you're not using up any of your EI eligibility weeks. Again, if you watch my EI video, you'll know that the amount of time that you can receive benefits is not set either. It could be anywhere from 14 weeks to 45 weeks. So instead of receiving $292 for your amount of weeks and then missing out, you're potentially extending that time because you're using CERB for that first 16 weeks and then starting fresh with your EI claim, assuming that you apply for the EI program and receive it after your 16 weeks with CERB is complete. There is also an advantage for people who would have not reached that max amount with their EI claim. Those people are going to be receiving $2,000 regardless of how much you would have been making, which might be kind of nice. On the other hand, this means that there's a disadvantage if you reapply for the EI program after your 16 weeks are done, because at that point, you'll go back down to receiving 50% of your previous income, as per the EI program guidelines. Again, I explain how all of that works in the other video, so go watch that if you're interested. Now, this brings up the point, okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages to being in each program. Can I take a look at what would give me the best advantage and choose which one to apply to? Unfortunately, no. If you lost your job due to COVID-19, your claim is going to be processed through CERB. If you lost your job prior to COVID-19 or not because of COVID-19 related reasons, then your claim is going to be processed through the EI program. CERB only came into effect on March 15th, 2020. So if you were already claiming EI benefits as part of a job loss prior to COVID-19 or prior to that date, then you're going to continue to be part of the EI program until your benefit period ends. Once that happens, if you're unable to get a job due to COVID-19 and it's before October 3rd, 2020, then you can apply to receive the CERB benefits. Now, a small note, there is a case in which you could request to be switched to CERB payments if you started a new EI claim within the last 52 weeks and are still getting paid out. You can contact Service Canada and end your existing claim to receive CERB instead, if you meet the eligibility requirements. But that means that the weeks left on your EI claim would be forfeited and you'd be on CERB instead. So think about this very carefully, because once you switch, that's it. They specifically use the scary word irreversible on their website, so you know they mean business. In my opinion, the longer you can draw out receiving that money, the better. You only receive CERB for 16 weeks. So if you're on EI right now, I might keep the EI until it ends and then apply for CERB. That way you're going to add to those weeks rather than just getting CERB and then nothing. I know it might suck if you're getting 50% of your income right now and it's a smaller amount than those sweet $2,000 government checks that they're getting over in the CERB program, but calculate the money that you're going to get in total with your current claim relative to what you'd receive with CERB. It might be in smaller payments, but if you're receiving them in a longer period of time, it might work out to receiving more in general, which would be worth keeping around. The government has a really great FAQs page that I'm going to link down below. That's where you're going to find mostly all the information that you need to know about CERB. However, there are some specific things that I'm going to mention here because it's important information that I don't want you to miss. What happens if I get a CERB payment that I'm not entitled to? This could happen if you apply twice. For example, if you applied for EI way back in the beginning and it wasn't clear to you that your claim would be automatically transferred to CERB, and then you might have applied for it through the CRA. You might receive 2 payments. Or if they give you a payment and it turns out you're not actually eligible, or you didn't reapply but they messed it up and gave you a payment anyway. I don't know if any of this is actually happening, but I have to believe that there is a mountain of administration work involved with all this, so things have to fall through the cracks. Anytime that you receive a payment you're not entitled to, you will have to pay it back. And don't worry, the government is not going to hunt you down. There aren't any penalties associated with getting an extra CERB payment. But it's not just free money. So if you do get an extra payment, just don't spend it. You know you're going to have to return it. Instructions for that I'm not going to list here because they're too long, but you can find it on that FAQs page. So head over there if that's a situation that you're in. Do I have to pay taxes on this income? Yes, the benefit is taxable, which means that you're going to have to report it as income on your 2020 income tax. Don't worry, I went ahead and looked it up for you. You have to enter the total amount that you received in line 11900 of your tax return, called employment insurance and other benefits. You're welcome. Keep in mind, I'm not at all a tax professional, so please ask an accountant or other tax expert for your personalized advice. Please let me know down below if you have any questions about these benefits programs. As always, I am a financial coach. I don't actually work for the government, so my word is not law. All of this is just how I personally understand things from reading and researching the documentation. But I do think that now I have quite a handle on what all of this means, so I will try and answer what I can. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe with the notification bell turned on so you will be the first to know whenever I upload a new video. And if you know anyone who needs to hear this information, please send them a link. Helps the channel grow and spreads the important message of taking on your finances fearlessly. Until next time, I'm wishing you great financial health. Bye! To be eligible or have exhausted your employment sherbet, if you meet the eligibility, so hot in here, $5,000 every week. Oh, that's the end of the, okay.